Today is going to be a fairly unique day as a whole. We're going to actually sit and go through study time together. This is the type of stuff that our group as a whole typically does. One of the things that I've sat and I've described to individuals is that we are bigger than software. For those that have had a misunderstanding with regards to this, individuals, you must be a member of the 500 Freemen in order to actually be at a point of receiving access to our software. It's a part of the overall equation as a whole. And a part of what 500 Freemen essentially is outside of being just a think tank. We are also a body of entities that are very much so interested in change and adjustment in the world as a whole. So part of being able to have proper change and adjustment in the world is you literally need to move to a phase to where you know who you are. You move to a phase to where you understand his story, Miss Story, where you start to understand law as a general whole and commerce in conjunction with law itself. So a part of what we're going to be going through today is just literally every aspect, of business, every aspect of law, every aspect of life. Again, this is our study group, and you all are essentially invited into our study group today. So I want to go ahead and actually show you guys our study group. So this is our study group. So let's get started. Obviously, you can see that I'm sitting on an area that effectively describes what free Negroes are. We're going through currently the color codes of 1860. So everybody, if you're at a point where you have a computer near you, you might want to type in color codes of 1860. When you type in color codes of 1860, you want to pull up either Virginia or Georgia codes. And the biggest reason why we're going through this right now is that I've gotten a lot of messages from individuals as it relates to me sitting and describing the fact that we are currently engaged in economic slavery of sorts, if you will. And so I've gotten a lot of messages from individuals to the extent of that they don't necessarily understand what I mean by that, or they don't understand, just this whole systematic structure. And so I determined that very few entities on this planet actually sit and go through this stuff. And what most people don't realize is this is applicable black, white, purple, green. Commerce is just that. It's commerce, and it's applicable, to everyone. So for all of you all that are jumping on this live right now, you literally want to stay on this live. What happens, so that for a lot of you all, what will happen is that this live will actually end up filling up. And as it fills up, unless individuals drop out, you won't be able to access it back. So what I would do is I would try to stay on the live to the best of your ability. I did have, before I get started with this lesson, I did have a couple of individuals that posed questions with regards, members of the 500 that posed questions with regards to what we have going on as an organization and the general structure. As I described for everyone from day one, this is a body of movement. We are effectively one people, and we are operating in a manner of vein of being one people. Xavier, can you go and secure that, please? Yes, sir. Just right here. whichever one. Check, see which one it needs to be secured. So the bottom line with me saying that is that if you are not geared or structured towards change and helping people outside of yourself, then I need you to do me a favor and not sign up for, our program. We are at current individuals that, thought that this was just a software thing. We are currently working to remove those individuals and, essentially give them their capital back in their funds that they've spent in the program back in its entirety, if you will, because we don't want people in our program that don't have the ability to be able to help the 500 progress forward, as a whole, as a unit. So for those of you all that are members of the 500 at present, if there is more detailed information that you need, if you will, then we can work to have one of our guys actually, reach out to you. But again, at this particular point in life, we are movement and a body towards change. So again, if you're not in that particular area and vein, if you are just like, this is some software thing and I can just sign up for some software, situation, that's not this. And, if you're not at a point of participating with our organization, whether that's feeding, the homeless, if you will, whether that's, providing housing, for homeless and, all of the other, aspects of our program, if you will, if that's not something that interests you, then you should definitely not be a part of our program. If you're already a part of our program and this throws you off, then all I need you to do is actually either DM me or Billion Wealth Academy so that we can go ahead and get your spot to someone else. In conjunction with that, the doors, as I've mentioned multiple times, the doors is essentially closing, and we do have very limited spots. So again, it's definitely the reason why, if you are a part of the 500 right now and this is not something you're interested in, I need you to let me know so we can go ahead and get somebody else your spot and your position. Now, with all of that being said, let's get into our studies. So the first area that we've sat and we've kind of gone through, again, for those of you all that are sitting in front of a computer and so on and so forth, you need to go through Color Codes of 1860. Type that into your computer, Color Codes 1860. The Color Codes of 1860, I'm actually going to have one of my people actually read out the beginning phases of Color Code 1860, and hopefully you all, will be able to hear what they're sitting and describing. So, CJ, go ahead and you can kind of address or start with reading the color codes. Try to read loud so everybody can actually hear you. Yes.
General provisions as to slaves. Number 1, none shall be slaves in this state except those who are so when this chapter takes effect. Such free Negroes as may be sold as slaves pursuant to law, such slaves as may be lawfully brought into the state, and the future descendants of female slaves.
Okay. Repeat that for me one more time. Make sure that everybody can hear you. Repeat it one more time. Here, they asking that I give, so just hold the phone towards her.
They can hear you.
Move your hand out the way so that they can hear you, Gabriel. You got to, there you go. All right, go ahead.
General provisions as to slaves. None shall be slaves in this state except those who are so when this chapter takes effect. Such free Negroes as may be sold as slaves pursuant to law, such slaves as may be lawfully brought into this state, and the future descendants of free female slaves.
Continue.
2. Slaves born within the limits of the United States may be brought into this state and held therein, if resident in those limits at the time of removal and not theretofore convicted of and transported for crime. How free Negroes may become slaves. Proceedings, how and where, instituted and determined.
Continue. Yep.
It shall be lawful for any free person of color resident within this Commonwealth of the age of 18 years if a female, and of the age of 21 years if a male, to choose his or her master upon the terms and conditions herein after mentioned.
Okay. Let me come back and get real. Okay, so for those of you all to understand what it is that you just got finished listening to, yes, he gets to choose his or her master. So here's the choice, and this is where I keep describing to individuals that this isn't a color thing. This isn't a black, white thing. This is literally a we, us thing. So what most people don't realize is the Emancipation Proclamation. If you read it, and I encourage everyone to actually read the Emancipation Proclamation, it does not free the slaves. What the Emancipation Proclamation actually does is it transfers the power from the plantation to the actual state itself. It literally transfers the power from the from the plantation to the state, thus unifying slavery. That's the thing that everyone completely missed out on, is that it completely unified slavery, and in its unification of slavery, it effectively unified it by way of commercial purposes. So let's break this down as a whole. What most people don't think about is that little simple areas, like, for instance, when the statement is made that you paid your debt to society. Most people never sit and think about, you paid your debt to society. Okay, now let's run this a step forward. Most people never think about the fact that in the vast majority of instances, they effectively call prisoners state property. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know how many people have ever heard the terminology state property, but where she just got finished describing the fact that you have the ability to actually pick your master, what that's actually sitting and saying is that you get to pick the state in which you are effectively going to be governed under. And you're able to pick that state by way of, for instance, a driver's license. You're effectively able to sit and say, hey, I am governed under the laws of this particular, or under the rules and regulations of this particular state structure, if you will. That's how you are effectively able to pick your master. Now, here's why I'm describing all of this, because most people never think about this very unique thing. If you ever sat and looked at a movie like Roots, for instance, if you ever looked at Roots essentially gives you a picture of what slavery would have effectively been, right? And so when individuals or entities are essentially enslaved in that particular vein, what did they have? They had shelter, they had food and clothing. And for all intents and purposes, they had transportation by way of a horse and carriage, if you will. So in today's common society structure, if you effectively work a 9-to-5 job, if you will, what do you have? Class, what do you have when you work a 9-to-5 job? But break it down in its most simplistic component. If you got a job, you got food, shelter, and clothing, and transportation. Now, for those of you all that have been at a point to where you have traded at some particular point in time, the one thing that you can kind of see in your trading as a whole is that these digital dollars, if you will, are fluctuating up and down and so on and so forth. So they're digital dollars. They're fluctuating up and down, right? But they literally are you're at a point to where the value is only determined by you and I. Meaning the acceptance of you and I of that digital dollar. So for instance, if right now, if I gave you a euro dollar, right? And you're here in the United States and you have a euro dollar, you would be like, fuck is you giving me this for? I can't do nothing with it. Because you can't exchange the euro dollar. There's nothing to be able, it has no value really for you. Or even better yet, I say euro, let's roll with a peso. I give you a Mexican peso and you would sit and you would look at me like I was crazy. Like, yo, what are you giving me this Mexican peso for? Because at the end of the day, you would deem that there is no value to that particular piece of paper. You follow what I'm saying? So now let's flip it, flip it around. So if we're at a stage to where we effectively go and we work every single day, for a dollar, if you will, we're essentially selling hours of our life for $1, right? For something that if we took that same dollar and we actually went to Europe or we went somewhere else, if you will, Japan, they would essentially maybe look at that dollar and say, what are you handing me this for? There's nothing I can do with it. Especially if the value of the dollar here drops massively. They would sit and they would be like, yo, what are you handing me this worthless piece of paper for? Right? But at the end of the day, what we do is that we effectively accept this paper. Now, I'm not sitting and saying, that obviously we utilize this paper, right now we utilize these digital notes to keep a roof over our head, food in our stomach, so on and so forth. So I'm not sitting and in any way, shape or form at a point of saying that, oh, well, we shouldn't, no one should effectively work to acquire, digital currency or paper currency. What I'm sitting and saying is that your sole drive and purpose in life should not be towards the acquisition of this paper or acquisition of digital notes by way of the fact that you're selling hours of your life for that. The purpose behind it should be the fact that you work to develop and cultivate this paper. You work and develop and cultivate these digital notes so that you then can essentially take that capital or those notes and transition them into an area where they eventually work for you. That is the whole purpose of money, period. Money is designed to work for you. You're not supposed to work for it. That's the whole component. You have to be master over the money instead of the money becoming master over you. And so this whole system has been systematically set up in a manner or vein that is designed to keep you occupied or preoccupied, with the area of vein of, again, sell hours of my life to get something that, very well could at one point in time or another become absolutely worthless in value. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Heike, some of the things that we were sitting in and kind of discussing earlier with regards to this. Again, for all of you all that are just joining us, you want to pull up color codes of 1860. And 1860 and look at Virginia or look at Georgia for the color codes, because there's another unique thing about the whole color code situation. CJ, can you continue with Or actually, who has the color? Who else has the color codes right now? No, pull up Virginia. That's what you were reading, right? You were reading Virginia. Pull up Virginia. Where was the last area that you left off at, CJ?
3, right?
Number 3. Okay, so you read 3. So read 4 for me.
Number 4 says, when any free person as for said desire to choose a master, such person shall file a petition in the circuit court of the county or corporation in which such free person of color resides.
Stop. Back up. Read that. Reread that again. And I want everybody to actually hear what he's sitting and describing. Say it one more time.
When any free person as for said desire to choose a master, such person shall file a petition in the circuit court of the county or corporation in which such free...
They shall file a petition to the court or corporation.
Yes, sir.
They shall file... So... That went over most people's heads.
Corporation?
Okay, so for those of you all who it actually went over your cities, states, and your the federal government is effectively a corporation. It's a corporation. If you ever went to certain cities, you may go to a city and it may say unincorporated, blah blah blah, or incorporated, blah blah blah. So these are corporate entities. See what I'm saying? So for those of you all, I know some of you all may have this may be the first time that you've jumped on with us. We sit and we go through everything from buying businesses to credit to trading to and today you just happen to get us on an area to where we're actually sitting and we're studying why some of the things that actually take place in this world still happen. Now here's what's going to blow you all away. The color codes of 1860 were never repealed. Let me say that for you one more time. The color codes of 1860 were never repealed. And if anybody can find the repeal, please send it to me because I'd like to see where these codes were repealed. And if they're not repealed, then that means that they are still law. If they're not repealed, then that means they are still law. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So go ahead, CJ, continue.
Yes, sir. All right. It says after we got to the corporation in which such free person color resides, setting forth his desire to choose an owner and setting forth the name of...
Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, let's start before all from the top. When any free person as for said desire to choose a master, such person shall file a petition in the circuit court of the county or corporation in which such free person of color resides, setting forth his desire to choose an owner, and setting forth the name of such person as he or she desires to select as an owner, which petition shall be signed by such free person of color in the presence of at least 2 subscribing witnesses.
Okay, pause 1 second. So here's the thing that I think a lot of people miss out on is that this is describing a free person of color. A free person of color. Hey, V, when you got your driver's license on you?
I do.
What does it say on there? Tell me what it says in terms of your race.
Other.
Vito say his race is other.
You know what? It doesn't have it on mine.
It doesn't have it on yours?
Wait, eye color.
We might have to vet Vito.
Oh shit, V. So wait a minute, Vito. Wait a minute, Vito is not a color.
Nope.
You know, he's an other. Vito's an other. Huh?
Question mark. We can't send him back. We know where he came from.
Okay, so for everybody that's at home, you should actually take a look at your driver's license. See whether or not it actually lists. So it doesn't list whether you are black or white on there?
Correct.
Wow. So it just assumes?
I mean, my picture says it all, dude.
I mean, yeah, I was.
I'm in that thing like this.
Okay, California doesn't list race. That's new. That's new. Yeah, everybody look at yours because the older ones, the older driver's license actually stated race. But okay, if your driver's license doesn't actually have race on it, then if you have the opportunity, pull your birth certificate, because I can tell you without question, your birth certificate say some shit on it. I can tell you that for certain. It got it on there. So if you have the opportunity to pull your birth certificate, because in all likelihood, if you look like Vito, your birth certificate actually says that you are white. If you look like Vito, they took it off. Ha! That's unique, because obviously for those that, had older driver's license, you all know on that driver's license, it essentially said that your ass was either black, black, white, and possibly other. But definitely on your birth certificate, if you actually look at your birth certificate, it sits and it says on your birth certificate that you are, black or white. So in other words, what it's describing on the birth certificate itself, yours has a color on it, Joy? Or is that your passport?
This is I'm looking at my passport now.
Okay. Does it list it?
Date of birth, place of birth, date of issue, date of expiration.
Okay. So again, look at your wait a minute. Say, what'd you say?
Mine, I was born in 76, says Negro.
So she was born in 76. So her birth certificate says Negro. Most. So she's not a color. Hey, so listen, somebody call you black, you should get upset. You'd be like, I ain't no damn color, I'm a Negro. But the reason why this is so important is because the color codes are applicable to all entities that are considered to be colors.
Look at that. Within the corporate limit.
Within.
They actually put that on.
Hang on. Let's see. What does it say?
Within the corporate limit. So you're born. Why would they need to state that on your
Within the. It says within. Show it back for everybody again. What does it say?
Right there. Within the corporate limit.
Within the corporate limits.
So why would they need
So
to say that?
where is the corporate limits? No. Well, okay. So let me back up. The original corporate limit would be the square mile that we're referring to as Washington D.C. But within on his that's what, a Florida.
New York.
That's in New York. Okay. So on his birth certificate, it's referring to within the corporation of New York, because every entity is effectively every state is incorporated. Yeah. Yeah, that shit gets deep as hell. Shit get.
So do
Yes.
they trade you? All right, let's say you were born in New York, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're within corporate limits of New York, right? But then you move to Virginia and you transfer your stuff. Did you just trade your slavism from New York?
You switched masters. You switched masters.
From New York
Yes,
to Virginia
you
or
switched
whatever.
masters.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
That's exactly what you just now. Okay, so go ahead. So go ahead and continue to read, CJ, because this will blow you all away. If you all sit and read this stuff, this will literally blow you away. Again, bear in mind that none of this stuff was repealed, and if it's not repealed,
Is that why they make you cut or they destroy your other?
yes, that's why they destroy your other driver's license, because you can't have two. You can only have one master. Oh shit. Oh, shit is deep. Why do they destroy your other driver's license? Because you can only have one master. Okay, so hang on. We've got somebody. We have somebody that said in Maryland the color codes were repealed in the Constitution in 1876. So somebody do me a favor and pull that up because I want to see the color codes of Maryland repeal. 1867. I'm sorry, 1876. Yeah, that's that dyslexic situation. Yes, it says it was repealed in 1867. So what you all are sitting in on right now is that this is actually one of our study classes, if you will, where we just actually sit and we go through and we start absorbing knowledge. This is what being a part of the 500 Free Men is all about, is that this just happens to be one area. Today we're sitting, and we are talking about this equation, but this is, again, we talk about everything from, credit to incorporations, businesses, buying businesses, trading, we literally, we go through all of those areas for those of you all that are new to this particular portal. Again, today just happens to be one that we're actually going through because everyone was curious, as to, again, why are the things that's happening in the world, if you will, with regards to whether we're sitting and we're talking about things that's happening with, with folks that call themselves white, or whether we're considering or folks that consider themselves black. Why are the things that's happening in this world, why are they happening in this particular manner and vein? So what we decided we're going to do is start to study some of the law so that we can get a grasp, because when you sit and you look at the past, it effectively gives you a good grasp as to what possibly will transpire in the future. That's what trading actually really is all about. Trading, you actually research past so that you can be at a point of position of progressing forward. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was just curious. Because we're talking about all topic in the same sense. Can you buy shares since it is incorporated? Or like,
Can you buy shares?
since it's in the financial
Okay, so his question is, can you buy shares? No, because it's not publicly traded. It's not. So the question was, can you buy shares since the United States of America and all of the other cities are incorporated? Can you buy shares of the corporation itself? And the statement is no, because it's not publicly traded on the market. So because it's not publicly traded on the market, you have no ability. However, you can buy the debt of the corporation. You can buy the debt of each and every last one of these corporations. What do they call it? Vito, what do they call the debt of a corporation? Anybody? What do they call the debt of a corporation? When a corporation is selling its debt, what do they call it? Come on, somebody. What? Come on. All right, let's see if anybody on here knows when a corporation sells the debt. Yes. No. Bonds. Bonds.
Can you give me that number birthday?
Bonds.
So bonds goes really deep back to like a long time ago, correct? Like bonds from California, like when all this stuff, like all over.
When a corporation is formed, it effectively, we're talking about that entity has the ability to issue bonds. Okay. All right. So go ahead and continue forward, CJ.
Okay. One quick second. This is came back with the young lady talking about
Here,
Maryland.
go ahead. Point it there. You're taking a point it so you can show.
Where the young lady talked about Maryland, they repealed a lot of laws back in the 1860s, but it's still the same genre situation. They didn't change anything in retrospect, as far as concerning the law, based on. Yeah, not even. Yeah. But the slave code is still just breaks down the whole scenario. They really didn't do a big revision of it and change the whole major thing to make anything different, because they had states such as North Carolina, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana that adopted
But he's
it.
saying that it was repealed.
This is the repeal stuff as he's referring to back then, right?
Those were black codes, and then the color codes came afterward.
So there were black.
Black codes are color codes. If you read this right here, I'm gonna read.
Right, but I'm saying they named them different. So they're saying the black codes were repealed, and then they went into Reconstruction. And then once Reconstruction was over, that's when the color codes came back.
So, again, the the area that we're sitting and we're speaking on right now is like the craziest, because the thing that most people don't gather is that how this so much affects your life right now.
They redirected the name of it. Instead of saying the slave code, they started calling it the color code. So they integrated that, and that's what they used to repeal the information that they're spewing out in this revision of what they're referring to.
Okay, so now, so wait one second, because CJ, you function in this particular industry. It's being brought up right now about bail bonds. And so if for those people that dispute the fact that they're corporations and stuff, for those individuals that dispute that, if you weren't a corporation, then how are they effectively able to write a bail bond against you?
You are definitely property because we're writing a bond on you. So
oops. Oops.
My bad.
Oops.
Don't go to court if you don't want to. You got to pay the price, just like
oops. State property.
You just owned by a private entity.
He the slave to go get other slaves, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. CJ, he said CJ's a slave to go get the other slave. Hey, you a slave catcher. You a slave catcher.
And guess what? I work for the state.
You a slave catcher, CJ. That's some shit.
Slave for the state to catch the slaves.
You work for Massa. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. Hey, husband and wife slave catchers. Y'all are horrible. Man. Don't cross that gun line there, boy.
Thank God for your participation.
We gotta get out. We gotta make CJ pockets broke, guys.
Man, look at him, man.
Okay.
Economics, baby, we still gonna win.
Man, CJ, Tammy said you're a house ninja.
Crocheted.
All right, who you gonna continue to read? Go ahead.
Yes, sir, I will. Let me flip back over real fast. But number five, it says the court in which such petition shall have been filed shall, upon the filing of said petition, order a notice that such petition has been filed to be forthwith posted by the clerk of said court at the front of the door of the courthouse for 1 month. Said court shall cause to be summoned to appear at its succeeding term, both the petitioner and the person so designed in said petition.
Continue, please.
Yes, sir. Upon the appearance of both the petitioner and the person designated in the petition, the court shall proceed to examine each party separately, as well as each other person as said court may see fit. At such examination, the attorney of the Commonwealth shall be present and see that such examination is properly conducted and that no injustice is done to the petitioner. Pretty much. To the queen. Like Chuck, bro.
Yeah, but again, so I don't want to go too deep on that what you're sitting and bringing up. I don't want to go too deep because I want to spoon feed everybody this situation. And the reason why we're going through this right now is that I firmly feel that in order for a body of people to progress forward, you have to have a true underlying purpose. If your purpose right now is to get up every day and pay your car note, pay your rent or your mortgage, if you will, put food in your stomach and clothes on your back, if that's the sole purpose of your functionality, then again, you have to bear in mind that was the sole purpose of the entities that we're sitting and talking about were effectively enslaved. This is so if we're going to sit and say a body of people, back whenever were enslaved, and that's their general functionality of the body of people back when, if we're going to sit and say that that's how things was back then we've got to sit and we have to literally look at the mirror now and sit and say, holy shit. wait a minute, it's the same exact shit. And then once you realize that it's the same exact shit, now you have a choice. The choice is you either remain good field Negro, whether white or black, you remain good field Negro, or you become a fucking runaway. You become a runaway. That's literally the decision that each and every individual on here, individual in the world, period, point blank, you have to make a conscious decision as to whether you are going to remain in your pre-existing capacity. And you know, let me tell you something that happened as well. Again, when you sit and you look at those older movies or whatever have you, you know, where they depict slavery and so on and so forth, right? So you always had the individuals on the plantation that was complaining about how bad the conditions was on the fucking plantation. Talk to me now. I mean, tell me I'm bullshitting, y'all. Tell me I'm bullshitting. You always had, look at the movies. You always had the individuals on the fucking plantation complaining how bad the fucking conditions was on the plantation. So it's hot out here. So it's hot out here.
Well, I can't wait to give me a piece of that watermelon.
You know, boy, Master working the hell out of us today, boy. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, so now tell me that ain't the same situation that people effectively do today. Yes, ma'am.
And they also entertain themselves. A lot of people are interested in entertainment.
So they all so what she was stated was they also during that time they entertained themselves. They were or they were very interested in entertainment during that time frame. Dancing, singing, the whole nine. They were because what that did was the dancing and the singing and the entertainment, it distracted them. It got them away from how bad conditions were. They had. Okay, hold on. Wait. Where did I see that at? I literally just seen something. Let me see if I can. Okay, I'm gonna point this here. Y'all let me know whether y'all can see this, because this was crazy, right? I'm glad you just stated that, Deja. Okay, I'm gonna read this right here for number 3. Or let me see if I can zoom out so you all can see it. Can you? Okay, if you can see it, read it. Read it out. Number 3. Somebody got to read. You got to read louder. Somebody got to. Haki, read it.
Any slave who went from his or her plantation to have a pass, move it over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The slave had to show this pass to any white who wanted to see it.
Okay, go to number 2. I meant to go number 2. I'm sorry. Go to number 2.
It was illegal for a slave holder to work slaves in the field on Sundays, except as punishment or unless they were paid.
Whoa! 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 Hold on. They need to read. You got to speak louder, because you know some people can't read. They can't read. You know what I'm saying? So they can't read. So let's go ahead and read that louder for them right quick. Number 2.
It was illegal for a slave holder to work slaves in the field on Sundays, except as punishment or unless they were paid.
Y'all see me on Sunday? Because I ain't working. I'm being good all week. How many times you want big?
I'm always working.
That's why everybody always gather around for that Sunday dinner. We can work all week, and that Sunday dinner comes. Everybody was at the table for that Sunday dinner.
Hey, y'all see Chick-fil-A closed on Sunday, right? Chick-fil-A closed on Sunday. Hey, listen, they still up. Chick-fil-A abiding by the damn color codes. Everybody else breaking the damn law. They paying. Oh, look at there. Look at there. So people are getting paid. Okay.
Ain't no free no more.
Okay.
Free punishment workers. So they were like, well, we'll pay you 50 cents more if you come in. Oh, yeah, I'll be there, boss. What you need?
But wait a minute. How they paying you if they giving you Federal Reserve notes?
Pay you with paper. They cost you 2 cents probably. You see that? The Federal Reserve notes.
Hey, hold this right quick. I got hold it. Hold this. I got something to show you. Get your hand over the camera, man. I'm putting this on the $1.
Try to cheat right, sir. This way, son. Pull them out. I got some $2 bill certificates. Oh, back by silver. I don't know how to turn them in, but I got it.
Huh?
Do it on the other side for him.
Bang.
On the other side for him. Show him the other side, hit the light.
That's what they go crazy for.
CJ, you're so cute.
No, you are too, B.
You already getting tired?
You stud muffin, you.
That's a heavy note you got there.
Yeah, man. I'm beginning to rethink my note.
Your arms are burning.
It's worse than the red book. Hold that up, CJ. Hold that other one up.
Okay.
Hold that other one up.
Oh, he got the originals. M to the G.
The trickery. The fuckery.
He got the original.
The fuckery. The fuckery.
Look at it.
The fuckery. Go ahead, put them out. Here, you can lay them both on the table. Shit. You lay them both.
Look at
The
that.
fuckery.
Look at that.
Look at that.
One is a silver certificate.
Look
The
at
other
that.
one is a Federal Reserve note.
Look at that.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Just a sleight of hand.
Oh,
You weren't even paying attention to it.
piece of silver right there.
You weren't paying attention to
They
it.
probably still don't see
No.
important to.
Oh,
Federal Reserve note.
Go in closer on that
Silver
silver.
certificate.
There you go, Federal Reserve note.
This certificate is for deposit with the Treasury. Come on.
yeah.
And they even tell you you could deposit it with the Treasury, not the Federal Reserve.
Exactly. Because it's silver.
You were talking about that when you went to DC.
Come on now. Come on now. Come on now.
And they got Washington, D.C. right here. Got Washington, D.C. right there. But this right here mean all the difference. This certificate is that, what is that? Deposit in the Treasury of the United States.
1957.
And
1957.
then you see this right here, and you see that? Say this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
At least one thing ain't changed. Yours, why?
I think he look a little pretty on the one that says silver.
Well, he got money. On the one that says silver. He got silver.
You gotta pay silver.
Man.
This is
Come on now. Come on now. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's wake up time. It's wake up time.
just bang them over the head.
It's wake up time. Go ahead. Hey, where did we stop at? Where did we stop at? We was on number.
On ours?
Yes.
Number 6. We're going on number 6.
Are we on 6 or 7?
7.
7? Okay, go ahead. Read 7. I'm gonna let everybody. You got to speak loud enough so that they can see it. I mean, they can hear you.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, because I'm showing them. I'm letting them see it. So I wanted you. Go ahead.
If upon such examination the court shall be satisfied that there is no fraud nor collusion between the parties, and that there is no good reason to the contrary, the said court shall have power to grant the prayer of the petitioner. And if determined so to do, the court shall proceed as ascertained what would be the value of the petitioner, if he or she were a slave. And if the individual chosen as master shall thereupon pay into the court 1/2 of such valuation, and enter in bond with approved security, and such penalty as the court shall prescribe, with condition that said Negro shall not become chargeable to any county or corporation in the Commonwealth. Such violation, payment, and execution of bond with the names of the petitioner and master shall be entered of record, and the property in said Negro as a slave shall, from the time of entry, vest in the person chosen as master, and his rights and liabilities and conditions of the petitioner shall in all respects be the same as though such Negro had been born a slave.
Wow.
You just signed your rights over.
Wow.
Everything.
Wow. Okay, so now we've got somebody else that says that that's saying that color code was ended. Excuse me, black color code ended in 1877 and became Jim Crow law. Okay, so here's the thing, and this is the thing I sit and I describe to people all day long, is that first, that's a big ass hole. So what the fuck happened between 1877, since you saying that it was repealed? Because I haven't found anything that shows me that it has been repealed. So if you saying that it's been repealed, then what I need you to do is, one, show me where it's been repealed, one, and then two, if it was repealed, that's a big ass hole between 1877 and 1964. So what the fuck was going on between that hole? You understand what I'm saying? You're not going to tell me that between that hole, there were no laws to govern anything. So what I need you to do, if you're going to tell me that it was repealed, I would like to know what the hell happened between 1877 and 1964. Because until then, and here's the unique thing about okay, but you're saying it was Jim Crow laws, but you just got finished stating that, okay, so now, when did Jim Crow, somebody do me a favor, Google Jim Crow. Tell me when Jim Crow laws were enacted. See, check this out. Huh?
Reconstructed and turned into Jim Crow in 1877.
Okay, so
The Civil Rights Movement.
reconstructed and what happened now?
1877.
1877.
Okay, 1877. So now, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Nothing. It just says enacted by white Democrat dominated state legislatures. The laws were enforced until 1965.
When the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Act, 1964, supposedly repealed Jim Crow laws.
Okay, so let's see the repeal. Someone pull up the repeal of Jim Crow. Now, just because you layer one thing on the other, without repeal, it's still law. So that's what I want everybody to understand. Just because just because I'm sitting and saying, okay, no, we going under this set of laws now. If you never repealed the other set of laws are still in play.
They don't want to feel that pain.
No, well, it's important. It's important for everybody to gather this. Okay, go ahead.
I think I got this here.
Okay, go ahead.
Although
Hook us up.
sometimes counted among
Here. Show them whatever you're talking about.
I think this is, if we being correct right here, it said, although sometimes counted among Jim Crow's law of the South, such statutes as miscegenation laws were also passed by other states. Anti-miscegenation laws were not repealed by Civil Rights Act of 1964, but were declared unconstitutional by the 1967 Supreme Court ruling in Loving versus Virginia.
They said they're unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional.
But they still didn't repeal.
Right.
They're just saying that the original. Right,
Okay, but check this out. Here's the shit that everybody missed. When you go into court, the court is not governed by the Constitution. Bow!
It's governed by the what?
It is governed by the state laws.
And your state property.
No, but I mean, but check this out. That's the shit that people miss. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna put out a video that really broke that down. That I sat and reviewed, which was so crazy because it's a jurisdictional situation. It's purely a jurisdictional equation, and that's the thing. People think that when they walk into court, wherever you are, when you walk into court, you think that the Constitution applies. But the Constitution doesn't apply because the state and the city that you're in and the county that you're in was incorporated. And because those entities were incorporated, you governed by the statutes of those jurisdictions.
They genius. They got
And certain
plausible
people wanna go
deniability.
to another county, they say, okay, well, this is out our jurisdiction.
Right.
We can't handle this
Because it's not in your
this was when
jurisdiction.
You were in another county or another city when this happened.
Right.
I can't
So
figure out how
you
much
have to
I
go
owe
to
on my
that other
tickets
county.
because they in
We
different
can't
counties.
do anything because of the jurisdiction.
Different jurisdictions. So people think that that the Constitution. Now, technically speaking, the funniest thing in the world, obviously I've described to people before the fact that the Constitution doesn't apply to you because the Constitution was a trust, and that Constitution trust, none of us signed on that situation. None of our ancestors signed on that trust. None of them are the beneficiaries. None of our ancestors are the beneficiary of that particular trust structure, if you will. So it don't apply to us anyway, but let's just pretend hypothetically that the trust or the Constitution, let's pretend that it actually applied to us, right? So if we pretend that it applied, where does the Constitution actually apply at? It would apply where it was written, in Washington, D.C. It was structured for that particular corporate entity. I shouldn't say where it was written. I should say it was designed for that particular corporate structure. The federal entity within Washington, D.C. is where the Constitution would be applicable. But if you are in the state of Georgia is not Washington, D.C. So therefore, the Constitution would not apply.
Somebody also put down here, the Constitution also says we shouldn't be taxed on our wages.
Okay, there you go. So therefore, we all know that shit ain't fucking applicable. we all know that shit ain't fucking applicable. So what I'm describing is, and that what individuals don't gather is, again, the simple fact of it is that the Constitution is non-applicable in the jurisdictions that we're effectively entering into. So if you're in the state of Georgia, you are walking into a corporate entity, the state of Georgia, that is effectively utilizing its statutes to govern you. That's the reason why if you look at the bottom of tickets and stuff in the state of Georgia, you look at the bottom of the ticket, it has a UCC code at the bottom of the ticket. Or on the back, if you flip the back of the ticket, it has a UCC code. That's what, again, this goes completely over individuals' heads, because we have all been taught, and it's been taught wrong, but we've all been taught the fact of that, we have constitutional rights. Yeah, you might have constitutional rights in fucking Washington, D.C. But if your ass ain't in Washington, D.C., you ain't no goddamn constitutional rights. Yeah, that's some fucked up shit, right? Fucking completely, damn. Now, why is all of this important? Because again, you have to come to a phase to where you understand where your positioning is in the world to be able to progress forward. If you are content with selling hours of your life, if you will, because you think that that's just the way things are supposed to be, that's the way it's been, that's the way it's supposed to be, and so on and so forth, then you're going based off of old knowledge, going based off of old information, and going based off of old knowledge and old information, you effectively become either one, extinct, or your ass experience history all over again. This is about the end. This is about the end. If you are 500 Freeman, do me a favor, hit hashtag 500. We're going to come right back. Hashtag 500 if you are 500 Freeman. If you are a 500 Freeman, do me a favor, hit hashtag 500. If you are a 500 Freeman, do me a favor, hit hashtag 500. We're going to come right back.